air impacts. This is, I think, an emerging issue. The EPA has a study out, or not a study, a proposed set of rules out July 28th that has to be completed to meet a court order by February 2012. It's over 600 pages. It's a fairly significant set of rules. I think it's interesting. I think the environmental community is sort of cautiously embracing it. I'm sure they'll criticize it to some extent as not going far enough. The American Petroleum Institute also responded relatively calmly. I'll use that word. They didn't bring out the howitzer right from the first moment to blast it. So it'll be interesting to see how the July 28th, the EPA proposed rules unfold. There are a set of real issues here, is the point. And the disclosure issue is, of course, probably the one that has gotten so much attention. I understand why it's gotten a lot of attention. It's dramatic, it's conspiratorial, it's quote-unquote sexy. At the end of the day, I don't think it makes a lot of difference to whether people's water are being contaminated or whether people's air are being contaminated or not. But it certainly makes good copy. In Pennsylvania, there has been a complete rewrite of the rules in the state. I became secretary in September of 2008 and began a forced march with Governor Rendell's blessing on updating our rules. 4 packages were passed. Each of them are comprehensive and full of all kinds of details. Again, they cover pretty much everything: water withdrawal, water disposal, the drilling design, as well as some buffer requirements. By the way, the buffer standard is for all activity. It's not a gas drilling rule per se. It's a protection for streams from all kinds of development. The drilling standards rule is very comprehensive. The rule was well overdue. It was probably 10, 15 years late. It should have happened long ago. But now Pennsylvania's rules and standards here are as strong as any in the country. It's been a comprehensive review. Every single word that was changed, many words changed, moved in the direction of strengthening the rule, raising standards, raising requirements. You should know that in Pennsylvania, the amount of resources put into not only writing the rules, but then enforcing the rules has been significant. Pennsylvania is the only state in the country actually to hire folks when the shale gas boom came to the state. We increased our staffing from 88 in the oil and gas program to 202. We hired in 2009, we hired in 2010. We opened new offices, provided new equipment, all at the time when the world economy was basically collapsing. And it was paid for by an increase in permit fees charged to the industry. Through the end of the Rendell administration, in my time, we told our inspection teams to wisely, of course, fairly, of course, but nonetheless to enforce the rules. There were 1,200 violations written. Now those violations encompass minor to serious. We are trying to create, at least were, and I think still hopefully are, trying to create a culture of safety within the industry. And you can't develop a culture of safety without paying attention to the small things. Once the small things start going wrong, you're on the road to much bigger safety and other problems. I think it's also important to note that the companies did not, by and large, appeal these violations. Probably less than 10 were appealed. And I personally think that's a credit to the industry. But they certainly would grumble quite a bit about some of them, and that's fair enough. But at the end of the day, they really pretty much went about the business of responding through operations to the violation notice, more essentially fixing what had been pointed out. The DOE Advisory Board has also, I think, highlighted 2 basic issues. One, air, and they put air first, before water. And that wasn't accidental. That was, I think, a deliberate, though somewhat indirect statement about what was most important in their own mind, the air issues, rather than the water issues. My own view is that the water issues, with the exception of the gas migration issue, at least in Pennsylvania, are substantially taken care of. That's not true, as I said, of the air emissions. The air emissions, just looking at nitrogen dioxides and the smog precursors, are significant. The difference between this industry deploying the cleanest technology, best controls on engines, and let's call it the least clean technology is significant. It's about a 95% difference. There certainly is a certain amount of methane leaking from the production process, and getting a handle on exactly how much is an important thing to do, and I think it's fair to say that there isn't a definitive answer as to how much methane all across the United States is leaking from gas production. The second thing that I think is fair to say about it is reducing that leakage is important, both for the industry and its profit loss line items, but also for greenhouse gas. Methane, as I'm sure you all know, is a pretty potent heat trapping gas. It does get out of the atmosphere after about 15 years completely, unlike carbon dioxide, which hangs around for a long, long time. Gas migration, last word on that, is that I think this issue, at least in Pennsylvania, and the New York EIS very confidently said it's really not an issue in New York. They haven't had a gas migration case since 1995 or something, 15, 20 years or so. It is an issue in Pennsylvania. And some in the industry, not all, some in the industry have insisted that it's not an issue. It's never, ever happened. They make the same claim about gas migration as they make about frac fluids returning from depth. That is absolutely wrong. It has definitely happened, at least in Pennsylvania. It's not prevalent, but wherever it happens and whenever it happens, it's a significant problem, and it needs to be addressed seriously. There are companies in the industry that would agree with what I've just said as well, and do take it seriously and are focusing on trying to eliminate it or make it even more unusual and rarer than it is today in Pennsylvania. I think that's it. Thank you.